Hello and welcome to Friday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic. And today we've got a very special puzzle to commemorate the safe return to Earth, no less, of Chris Cassidy, who was the commander of the most recent NASA mission to the International Space Station. He has been up on the International Space Station for over 6 months. And unbeknownst to us, he's been doing Sudoku while he's been up there. And you can see this on his Twitter account. Look, he's got the best Twitter handle ever as well. He's called Astro Seal. He is a Navy SEAL after all. And look, you can see that he's been doing a puzzle a day every day while he's been on the International Space Station. Now, I can't say I actually approve of the puzzles he's been doing, which I think are from a Sudoku calendar. So what we might do is send him a copy of our book when it's done, in the hope that maybe, you know, there'll be some amazing puzzles done in space in the future. But this is just superb. I love this. And what we thought we'd do, therefore, I spoke to Mark about this yesterday, and I'm actually on holiday at the moment, as you no doubt gathered, based off the fact I'm on my laptop. But Mark has created this puzzle, which I'm going to try and solve for you today. So you can see that we've got the letters of the International Space Station written in the grid. And it was the 63rd mission to the International Space Station, and you'll see that 63 comes into the rule set, which I will read for you in a moment. Wouldn't it be amazing if Chris actually saw this video? That would be incredible. Anyway, a couple of things to mention before we get cracking with the puzzle. We've hit our stretch goal. To have 10 puzzles that you guys select in our Kickstarter book. Now, this is very, very exciting, and we shall be in contact very soon about how we're going to run this. Obviously, it's not going to be that straightforward. So Mark and I have selected the 25 puzzles that we want to include, and then we're going to let you guys know those and have some sort of polling system that will allow you to vote for the 10 that you guys want. So that's very exciting indeed. The next stretch goal is... well, it's crazy. So that will mean that we will set up a dedicated website for the book. And that'll enable you, for example, to play all of the new puzzles on our software. So we think that will be a nice accompaniment. And yeah, check it out. If you've not looked at the Kickstarter campaign already, it really is quite something. And also, for those of you who are patrons of the channel, our 5-video series on Scott Strosahl's Puzzle Hunt is now live. No doubt I know some of you have been checking that out. There is a lot of video content there, and yeah, it's well worth looking at. If you were baffled by the hunt, those videos should help you out. Now, let me read you the rules of Mark's puzzle. So what we've got is normal Sudoku rules apply, and each pair of neighbouring digits that sum to 10 or 5 are marked with X or V respectively. So that's classic XV rules. So for example, that's telling us these two squares sum to 5. It's also, by the way, telling us that those two squares absolutely do not sum to 5, otherwise they would have to have a V at their boundary. And as there's no V, these two cannot sum to 5. So the negative constraint is absolutely in play here. Now, the other part of it is the digits in each of the coloured letters in the grid sum to 63, because this was the 63rd mission. So that means that all of the letters of this I shape, all of those sum to 63. This S, that sums to 63, and this sums to 63. And yeah, that's it. That's all we get. You can see there are no given digits. Mark's not been kind in that regard. Do have a go at this if you've not had a go already. I've been heartened, actually. I've been reading the comments. We launched this both as a tweet and also as a community post yesterday, and a number of you have commented to say, well, normally if you tried a puzzle of this complexity, you'd have just looked at the video, but because there was no video, you actually forced yourselves to do it, and you've done it, and the result has been massive endorphin rushes. And that's exactly what we'd hoped for, so fantastic. Now, hopefully I will now be able to solve the puzzle. Now, and the way to play, by the way, of course, is to click the link under the video as usual, or go to the tweet and click the link there, whatever you like. But now let's get cracking and see how we do. So what's Mark hidden in here? So I'm not exactly sure where the best place to start this is going to be, but some things I'm thinking about as I look at the grid are, for example, in box 9, where does a 5 go? 5 is an interesting digit, okay, I will admit it, in these puzzles, in that you can never put a 5 in a cell that's affected by an X or a V, because obviously, well, if you put a 5 in this domino, you'd have to put a 0 in the other cell. That's not going to work. And if you put a 5 in a 10 domino, you have to repeat the 5, which breaks the rules of Sudoku. So the 5 in box 9 is going to have to go in the bottom row. So it's going to have to go in one of those squares in box 7. And this might not be sensible, but I'm just trying to see whether there's anything interesting with 5s. Oh, I just want to put a pencil mark in there. Pencil mark, that sort of pencil mark, thank you. This one, no, that's no, okay, maybe 5s were not the place to start. Okay, so in this box you can see that the digits 1, 2, 3 and 4 are taken up in this 2 by 2 region, so the rest of this box has got to be 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 in some order. Again, that doesn't look massively helpful, I'll be honest. We've got 1, 2, 3 and 4 also in box 3, all locked together. 1, 2, 3, 4 here, maybe quite though. So what I'm looking to do, for example in row 1, we've now got 1, 2, 3 and 4 appearing in 4 cells. So we now know that the rest of row 1 has to be 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9. Now if there weren't already coloured cells in the grid, I would actually colour these to indicate that they were basically high digits, but as there are, I'm a bit reluctant to do that. It's a tricky to see where the break-in here is actually. So well done to Mark. That square's got to be 6, 7, 8 or 9. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple in the central column, look, because that's got to be 1, 2, 3, 4. This has got to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So now if we look carefully, you can see that we've got 4 cells that have to be selected from 1, 2, 3, 4. So the rest of this column has to be selected from 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. That can never be a 5 because it's on an X. Okay. Maybe we've got to, what's 63? Maybe I've got to use the 63 somehow, because actually I'm not immediately seeing how to make progress with the... yeah, hang on, look. If we think about this S down here, this adds to 63 in total, but there is something interesting going on with the bottom half of the S, because those cells are 7 cells in box 9, and just don't include this domino here, which we know adds up to 10 because there's an X. So as I know, the whole box will add up to 45 because it will contain all of the digits from 1 to 9 once each. If you add up the digits 1 to 9, you get 45. Deduct 10 from that, I now know those squares add up to 35, which means these squares add up to 28. Now that is an interesting total. Why is 28 interesting? Well, it's because there are only 2 ways of making it, and if you've watched yesterday's video, which sort of majored on 4-cell cages adding up to 28, you will know that it has to contain an 8 and a 9, and it's either going to have a 4 and a 7 in it, or a 5 and a 6 in it. So that is... The other thing that's interesting about that is if those 4 cells add to 28 and those add up to 5, together those 6 cells add to 33, which means those cells add up to 12, which is not terribly propitious, but it's at least interesting, especially as that has to be quite a high digit. That's got to be 6, 7, 8 or 9. In fact, that can't be 9, therefore. Because if it was 9, those 2 squares would have to be 1 and 2, and then you couldn't ever fill this 5 cage, because this 5 cage will either be 1, 4 or 2, 3. So if you remove 1 and 2 as options, you can never make that work. And the same is true of 8, actually, because 8 would remove 1, would put 1 and 3 in those squares, which would equally make this impossible. So this is 6 or 7, this is 3 or 4, this is 1 or 2, and we're actually... Well, I'm not saying we're cooking with gas, we're most certainly not cooking with gas, and we're not cooking with rocket fuel either, but we might have lit a match. So if this was 7, these two would add up to 5, then that would have to be 1, 4 or 2, 3, so then this would be 8, 9, 5, 6. Actually, it's a little bit interesting to note that if this was 6, this couldn't be 2, 4. So it would have to be 1, 5. Sorry about this. I'm just trying to get a handle on what's likely to be going on here. So the other thing that's interesting is if this is 7, of course, this is 3. Ah, that's interesting because that affects this V up here. So if this is 7, this is 3, this is a 2, 3 pair. So this is a 1, 4 pair. Now if this square is a 1 or a 4, this domino down here must be a 2, 3 domino. So that makes this domino a 2, 3 domino. So if this is a 7, this is a 2, 3 domino. If this is a 6... Ah, yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, here we go. Here's something anyway. So if this is 7, because of the effect that has on this domino up here, this domino has to be a 2, 3 domino. If this, on the other hand, is 6, we know those two squares have to add to 6, and they can't be 2, 4, because if they're 2, 4, you can't fill this 5 domino here. So this would have to be 1, 5, which means this is also 2, 3 in that situation, because it couldn't be a 1, 4 domino. So although I don't know what this is, I do know that this is a 2, 3 domino. And that, well, I'm not sure what that does, but it does at least give me a little bit of a restriction. So let's see if we can make it work for us. Okay, not managed to make it work for myself yet. So if this is 6, this is 4, 1, this would be... Ah, yeah, okay, it does. It affects this up here, doesn't it? So that's the place to look back. Now, once this is a 1, 4 domino, this becomes a 2, 3 domino. Has to be this way round. Let's just double check that. Yes, it does. It has to be this way round, because this can't be an 8, because we know there's the 8 in this foursome here. This is very clever. So this is 7. Now that means that this has got to be 5, 6, 8, 9. This 3 is disambiguating the 3 and the 2. That's giving us the 2 here, the 8 here, and suddenly we are cooking with something a little bit more interesting. It's so interesting that my laptop's fan is going bananas now. There must be a 3 in one of these cells. Those two squares now have got to be a 1, 4 pair. So this X domino here can't be 9, 1 or 4, 6, and it can't be 3, 7. So this has to be 2, 8. So this is not 7 or 8 now in box 5. Now, can we do more with that? Oh, that's interesting. I tell you what I've not thought about yet, and that is this I. Ah, now hang on a minute. Let me just think about this, because 63 is quite a large total. I'm just thinking, you can see it looks like this might be a maximum. If this is a maximum, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, that adds up to 35, which would make this also equal 28. In fact, well, let's put that a different way. This is very helpful because this has to add up to, this foursome here has to add up to at least 28, because this can never be more than 35, so this can never be less than 28. Now, you can't therefore put a 2 in it, because if you put a 2 in it, those three squares have to add to 26, which is impossible. So this is 8, 2 in that order. There's a 2 in one of these three squares. That square is not 8 anymore. In fact, do we know that there's an 8 in that fivesome? I wonder. Hang on. We know this is at least 28. So we know it must contain a 9, and therefore the 9 must be in one of those three squares. Now, if there's a 9 in one of those three squares, that square must be a 9, because we know there's a 9 in one of these four squares. So it's quite clever. And now, well, where does 5 can't go here anymore, so get rid of the pencil mark there. Get rid of the 9s pencil marked in the corner, they're just distracting me. Now, if this is more than 20, let's make this 29 and just think about what that means, because now we'd have 21 in those three squares. We'd have 19. Okay, right, sorry. If I'd approached this differently, I would have seen it much more quickly. But we can now say with certainty that this foursome does add to 28, because if it adds up to any higher than that, those three squares in the center, in the central box, have to add up to 5 or less. Now, we know 3 cells in the same row can't add up to less than 6. So the absolute minimum I can make those squares is 6. Now, if we have a look at this arrangement here, if this is anything other than 28, this threesome here has to add up to more than, well, 21 or more. Well, 21 plus 19 is already 40, and we know the row adds to 45, so this is adding up to 5, which is impossible. So we have to make this add up to 28. We know it's not got a 5 or a 6 in it, so this is 4, 7, 9. This triple here is 1, 2, and 3, and we know there's a V in the middle of this. So the only way of making 5 is if this pair is a 2, 3 pair, and this square is a 1. And that might do some things for us. Look, we can get rid of 1 from there. There must be a 1 in this domino. There must be a 1 down the right-hand side of box 8. And there must be a 3 in this square by Sudoku, because we have 3's locked into those squares. In placing this 3, we took the pencil mark position of a 5, so this is a 5. These two squares here have got to be 1 and 6, and that's interesting because both of these are linked by x's to these squares, so we can't put a 7 in either of those squares because that will mean we'd have to put a 3 below. So the 7 goes here, and this square can't be a 5 or a 7. We know those squares, because this adds up to 28, we know these squares add up to 35. So these are 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Let's just put that in. We can remove 8 from these two because of the 8 here. So there is definitely an 8 in these squares here. There's no 8 there, no 8 there. These squares are 1, 2, 3, and 4 therefore, and you can see we can do some restricting. So let's do the restricting and see where that takes us. Okay, it took us to there, which didn't really break the puzzle open. So, where do we look next? If this is a 2 or a 3, look, it's linked to this square by an x. So actually that's very helpful, because this can't be 2. Sorry, it can't be 3 because I can't put 7 there. So this is 8. This becomes a 3. Remove 3 from those squares, therefore remove 2 from these squares. These become a 3-4 pair. So this one can't have a 4 in it. This becomes a 1-2 pair. Let's get rid of the 2 down here, which means we can get rid of the 3 and 4 from there. This 2 now fixes this one. This can only be a 1. Therefore this is a 4. This is a 6 because of the x. Remove the 6 from these 2 squares. Okay, so that was a good flurry of activity. And there must be, where does 2 go in box 8? Look, there's just some simple Sudoku to do. Locks a 2 into this square, which would have been nicer to lock it into this one. That would have given us this square as well, but beggars can't be choosers. 2 is locked onto this domino by Sudoku. Look, these 2's interact. So this is a 2-8 pair, and there's an 8 here. So 8, 2. That plonks the 8 up here in box 1. We know there must be an 8 in the greys. It means, what else does it mean? I don't know. It means there's no 8 here. There must be an 8 in one of these 3 positions. Okay. 5 we still don't know enough about. 3, 4. Okay, now those 3 squares, look, have got to be 5, 6 and 9. So let's put them in, because that's going to help tidy up this central box. We're looking for 4, 7s and 8s into those 3 squares. Now, can we do anything with that? Is there any negative constraint? There's a 4 up there, so there's no 4 here. The 4 must go in this square. Yeah, look, if this was a 7 in this cell, that domino would add up to 10 and there should be an x in it, so we can use the negative constraint to get us out of trouble. Remove the 8 from this one, remove the 8 from this one. This is a 1, 2 and it's linked to that one, so that must be a 9. Sorry, I should have seen that before. That's me being very slow, as ever it seems to be the case. 9 can come out of these 2 squares. This is a 5, 7 pair, so that must be a 6. Now look, again, the negative constraint. We mustn't have a 1, 9 pair here, so let's place the 5 and the 9. Remove the 9 from up there. And this must be close to cracking now, I feel. 9 must go here by Sudoku. 8 must go here by Sudoku. Those 2 squares are 8 and 3. And we can see from this 8 the order. So that's 8, that's 3. That's not 3 anymore. This little pair here has to either be 1, 9 or 5, 6. I think I am going to notate that just in case it's helpful. Get rid of the 9 and the 1. This 9 here, look, that's on an X. You can just about see it. That helps with the 3, 4 up here. Therefore, the 4 and the 3 get disambiguated. This square now must be a 2. This must be a 1. Now we can do a whole load of tidying up here based off the negative constraint. That can't be 7. By Sudoku, look, we've got 5, 6, 7 to place in this row. Let's put all that in, see if we can get anything. 5, 6, 7 there. Is there anything connecting any of these somehow? I'm sure there is, but I just can't see it. Oh dear. No, it's all... that domino, we mustn't make that a 7-3 domino, so let's put the 5 and the 7 in. There must be a 5 now in one of those 2 squares, which is absolutely useless. This domino is quite interesting because it can't be 1, 9, it can't be 2, 8, it can't be 3, 7. This is 4, 6 therefore, and that's nice because that helps us with this domino as well, which gives us the 1, 9 pair. Let's fill that in. That gives us the 1, 4 pair at the top, gives us the other 1, 4 pair at the top. We've got to put a 4 in here by Sudoku. This therefore must be a 6. This row needs 3 and 5, which we can do by just using the Sudoku restriction. Get rid of 5 at the top there. This 4 helps us with the 4, 9. I think we're on the home stretch. I know I shouldn't have said that, but it does feel like it's starting to go relatively smoothly. That must be 9. Let's get rid of 9 from those two. So we've got a 5, 6, 7 triple here. Get rid of the 9 from over there. These two squares have got to be, whoopsie, 9 and 7. You can see we can do that. And these squares here have got to be 3, 5 and 7. The 3 must go there. The 7 must go here. The 5 must go here. The 5 and the 6 get resolved. Must be a 6 in one of these two. That can't be a 7, look, because it's next to a 3. So let's make sure we use the negative constraint there. Any more negative constraints to help us? I'm sure there are. I'm sure I'm missing them. And you're all shouting at your screens at me. I'm very sorry. This square's an 8, just to complete that column. That one can't be 6. So this is a 5, 7 pair. That fixes that this one is 6 because it can't be 7 anymore. Or 5, whatever it was underneath that pencil mark. That must be 9. 6 gets removed from these two. Oh, I wonder. Actually, yes, look, the 63 is going to come in. And oh, that's very clever, Mark. Very clever. I love that. Look, so we're in a position here where it doesn't look like there's much to help us out. But there is, because this S has to add up to 63. At the moment, it adds up to 15 plus 24. So it adds up to 39 plus 17. 39 plus 17. My brain's gone to sleep. Yeah, it's 56, isn't it? So that should be, if that's a 7, that gives us 63, which is what we need. So oh yeah, it's going to all crack now. Oh, that's lovely. That really is lovely. And there you go. Was that easier than space travel? I don't know. You let me know in the comments, but it was certainly a brilliant puzzle, rustled together at very short notice by Mr. Goodliffe, so I think he's done us proud there. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments. Let me know your times. Congratulations, of course, to Chris. I really hope you get to see the video, and we'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.